Mad Mattio Romano!
The announcer's voice carried from the Trivid display despite the general din of the bar. It wasn't the busiest time of day. Most mercenaries on Galatea didn't bother getting out of bed until mid-afternoon. But there were still a few patrons sipping beers and watching the latest unsanctioned gladiatorial bouts.
And in the blue Mech Bay, piloting a Zeus U-X4, Thomas Lightning Wozniak!
One of the patrons snorted, pips on her shoulders identifying herself as a former AFFS lieutenant.
Lightning? Seriously? That's the best they could come up with?
A giant of a man leaned over to look at the Trivid.
I have never understood why Inner Sphere warriors insist on these childish nicknames.
His speech clearly identified him as a clanner, and the claw mark tattoo across his face hinted at Ghost Bear heritage.
Makes things more interesting,
The lieutenant replied, watching the two mechs emerge from their base.
That's a weird-looking Zeus. Probably not a ZEU-X4, and I've definitely never seen a Mad Cat like that before.
She sipped her beer and gestured to the Mad Cat using her bottle.
You look like a clanner. You guys making some new model I haven't heard of?
Nay, as far as I know.
The clanner admitted, then pointed at the mysterious Battle Mech.
That is unlike any Timberwolf I've ever seen. Its torso is too sharp, too angular, and its arms do not possess omnipods.
Figures. These backyard wrestling bastards can't even get their mech designations right.
She downed her beer and sat back to watch the fight. Unlike the arenas of Solaris, Galatea's games often took place in cramped conditions. Both mechs powered up barely 400 meters from each other, with little more than flat dirt between them, and opened fire with laser beams and flights of LRMs. The battlefield was momentarily obscured by the smoke of missile trails and the debris of explosions. Most of the Mad Cat's missiles found their mark, cratering the Zeus's armor while several missiles managed to catch Mad Mattio's ankles. The Zeus then followed up with a blast from its autocannon, confirming the lieutenant's suspicion that this was not, in fact, a ZEU-X4 model Zeus X.
Fucking knew it,
she muttered, then tossed back the remnants of her bottle before gesturing to the bartender for another. The likely Ghost Bear remained silent as the two mechs closed, but then grunted in satisfaction.
Huh, that is no Timberwolf,
he said with confidence, then continued after the lieutenant raised an interrogative eyebrow.
That Mad Cat, or whatever it is, has stopped firing its LRMs. Clan missiles do not have a minimum range. Those are Inner Sphere launchers.
She nodded, as both mechs had stopped firing their missiles and were instead peeling back layers of armor using just their lasers, and in the case of the Zeus, its autocannon. Each circling the other with their torsos turned 90 degrees. With no cover or jump jets between them, the fight was now down to a simple test of gunnery. The first to penetrate the other's armor would gain the upper hand. At first, it seemed like the Mad Cat would emerge victorious as a large laser neatly severed the Zeus's right arm at the elbow. But then, a combined blast of autocannon and laser fire from the Zeus managed to pierce the armor of the boxy launcher on the Mad Cat. The mech shuddered as secondary explosions first blew the launcher open, and then the entire chassis erupted in a giant orange fireball. The Trivid display dimmed slightly to prevent blinding any viewers.
A Timberwolf would most certainly not do that, either,
the clanner noted dryly. The announcer stopped as a piece of the Mad Cat's exploding torso struck the Zeus in the cockpit, knocking it flat on its back. The 80-ton machine remained deathly still after several moments.
Actually, make that a tie! It's a tie, folks!
Another patron at the end of the bar cursed and threw his betting ticket in the air. Written in small print near the bottom were the contestants' full names and correct mech designations, including the name Rakshasa. One could hardly blame Inner Sphere engineers for attempting to reverse engineer the Timberwolf, also known by its reported name of Mad Cat. The iconic clan heavy mech had achieved legendary status as a boogeyman to Inner Sphere forces, somehow combining the firepower of both a marauder and a catapult, while being faster and better armored than either machine. Few encountered the Timberwolf and lived to tell the tale, so it was only natural that any salvaged examples were immediately sent to the protected capitals of each great house for thorough analysis. The Federated Commonwealth sent their salvaged Timberwolves to the New Avalon Institute of Science, where the best minds of the Inner Sphere marveled at clan technology and utterly failed to reproduce any of it. The clans were so far ahead in Battle Mech development, from lightweight laser focusing crystals to superconductive polymers, that NACE scientists acknowledged early on that it would take decades of intensive research to catch up. Hans Davian, however, demanded tools to fight the clans immediately. Rather than admit defeat, NACE changed the scope of their work from reverse engineering the Timberwolf to using it as a template to create a new mech using the best technology currently available. To further reduce development time, NACE reached out to General Motors for assistance. In exchange for using the Marauder as the base chassis, GM would receive the technical details to manufacture the new mech at scale. Nearly 5 years after first contact with the clans, the Rakshasa was born, so named after the mythical shapeshifter that would mirror its opponent's appearance and skills. Although the Rakshasa was not an Omni-Mech, it would be another year before the first Inner Sphere Omni-Mech was produced. The Rakshasa did its best to mimic the primary configuration of the Timberwolf, using as much Star League-era technology as could be sourced from the Helm memory core. Just like the clan Timberwolf, the Rakshasa is built on an endo-steel chassis surrounding a 375 rated extra light engine, albeit an engine that's more fragile than the clan version and a chassis bulkier than a clan-produced one. 11.5 tons of Starguard ferrofibrous armor provided less protection than the Timberwolf, but still surpassed that of most Inner Sphere heavy mechs. 15 double heat sinks matched the Timberwolf for cooling. In the arms, twin Exostar ER large lasers and twin Martel medium lasers aped the clan mech. Although neither could compete in terms of range or firepower, neither could the Rakshasa hope to mount the Timberwolf's LRM-20 launchers. The best NACE could do was twin federated LRM-10 launchers, with additional Artemis 4 fire control to ensure each of those missiles had a better chance of acquiring its target. Secondary weapons were limited to a single Martel medium pulse laser, eschewing the Timberwolf's machine guns and small laser. Lacking any of the technology that made the Timberwolf such a menace, the Rakshasa was still undeniably an excellent heavy combat mech by Inner Sphere standards. Initial combat trials against the clans were also quite promising, as 2 Rakshasas were sent to the Kellhounds to fight the Red Corsair and an Ark Royal and Elisa. The future was looking bright for the Rakshasa in 3055, and GM envisioned the chassis becoming a prestige assignment for commanders throughout the Federated Commonwealth. The Rakshasa's fortunes changed during Operation Guerrero, during an engagement between the 8th FedCom RCT and Capellan invaders on the planet's second try. The RCT's command company was trapped by a full company of Capellan mechs. The company managed to hold out for reinforcements, but both of the company's Rakshasas suffered heat-induced ammo explosions. Even though an older Crusader had suffered the same fate, the Rakshasa's lack of cellular ammunition storage equipment, case, became a black mark against the chassis, and word of this fatal flaw began to propagate within the FedCom armed forces. Rather than being sought after by majors and colonels, the Rakshasa was instead greeted by the upturned noses of even regular mech warriors. Naturally, the clans had a dismal view of the Rakshasa, seeing it as a pale imitation of the Timberwolf. The Rakshasa found some success on the mercenary market, where some of the more financially successful mercenary companies came to appreciate the Rakshasa's speed and firepower. Technicians also loved the Rakshasa for its standardized design, using many off-the-shelf components in common with the Marauder. GM made several attempts to rehabilitate the Rakshasa's image. The MDG-1B solved the Rakshasa's heat issues by dropping the extended range large laser for regular models. While this limited a pilot's range, it vastly improved the Rakshasa's stamina and virtually eliminated the risk of a heat-induced ammo explosion. The MDG-2A solved the Rakshasa's heat issues by replacing the entire weapon's complement with 4 medium pulse lasers, a large pulse laser, and a rotary autocannon 5. Although the autocannon's 3 tons of ammunition were still liable to explode if the left torso armor was penetrated. Case would finally arrive on the MDG-1AR model, a Jihad-era refit which acknowledged the Timberwolf's D configuration, replacing the Rakshasa's weapons again with a snub-nosed PPC in each arm and an MML-7 launcher in each shoulder. Case was installed in the torso-mounted ammo bays, preventing the sort of catastrophic explosions that mech warriors have feared for centuries. Today, the Rakshasa is a rare sight even among mercenaries, where Clan Sea Foxes flooded the market with mad cats of all shapes and sizes. But thanks to the Marauder's enduring popularity, General Motors continues to produce components that will keep Rakshasas going well into the 32nd century.